It's probably far more complicated than this, but it could simply be that white paint is cheaper than grey paint. But I tend to find myself working in white walled areas more than any other colour. So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 ways to create 3 different looks with white walls. I'm going to go for a washed out look, a drop shadow effect. I'm even going to add some texture to the plain white walls. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers, and we've got a lot to get through in this video. So I'm going to get a light set, let's get a model in, you click on the subscribe button, let's get shooting. Oh, and the bell icon, don't forget the bell icon. To help me out today, I've got the amazing Jade. Jade's going to be the model for this photo session and she's against the white wall of the studio, but before we get going, I've got to do something really important. I've got to make sure that this white wall will actually photograph black. Now, the reason for that is I want to take a picture without any flash firing to make sure that none of these room lights are going to be recorded in my photo. So I've dialed in some essential settings in manual mode on my camera. I'm on 250th of a second shutter speed. That's the flash sync speed for my OM system camera. Yours may vary. I'm on f5.6 and 200 ISO, which is the native ISO for my camera. Okay, Jade, quick little test photo just to see what we get. Here we go. No flash, no picture. We've got control of the lights in this room. The lighting for this is going to be flash. In fact, it is a Flashpoint XPLOR300 up here, and I've got it in a really large softbox. In fact, this is the Easy Lock 42-inch beauty dish. It's not a beauty dish, ignore the name. It really is just a large softbox that's going to give me a large, soft light source, perfect for the look I'm going for. However, if I put it here, there is an obvious problem, which is I can't photograph through it. So I've got it on a little grip arm and I'm going to put this way up as high as it'll go. So it's directly in front of Jade and elevated up into the air above Jade, like that. Next, we need to think about metering and getting the exposure right. Now, I could use trial and error. I could use TTL metering, but if I do that, remember that TTL metering and a large white wall, it might throw the TTL metering out, so you might need to use exposure compensation. I like to use a flash meter. Jade, I'm going to pop this near your chin. And as soon as my flash meter tells me that I've got f5.6, I know my exposure on Jade is going to be right. But for this look, I'm actually going to take the exposure up 1/3 of a stop, which puts me actually onto 1/4 power. Let's just take a test photo like this, see how this looks. Here we go. And what it's giving me is a slightly overexposed picture. But if we look at the histogram, we can see that this isn't a pure white. There is still some detail in the highlights, and that's important and exactly what I'm going for. And there's one other thing you can do as a photographer to make this picture work even better, and it involves moving your feet, because it's very easy to stay in one place where, in fact, I want to come around to the side. And if I just move around to the side, my light has effectively changed position, and my shadows are going to be a bit different, and I have a completely different picture. We still have a white background, but now we have that little bit of shadow behind Jade as well. It creates 2 different looks from one light setup, and that is always a useful thing. So I think we should take a few photos like this. Jade, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what we get. Here we go. The combination of a short flash duration and the fact I removed all the ambient light at the start of this session means Jade can move around quite a lot and I'm not going to get any motion blur whatsoever. The whole idea with these images is for that slightly overexposed, washed out feel. I'll enhance that even further in post-processing by reducing the vibrance and the contrast a bit. For the second look, I've changed a couple of things, but perhaps most obviously, it's the softbox is definitely different. The 42-inch beauty dish is gone, and this is a 25-inch beauty dish. A little bit smaller, and I can get that a little bit higher as well, like that. It's in a slightly different position, but really Jade's moved more than anything else. So if you change anything in your lighting setup, expect the power of your light to change as well. I could use TTL, I could do trial and error. Jade, I'm going to hold this near your chin. I'm going to point my flash meter at the light I want to meter until it says f5.6, which is at 1/8 power. So I've changed the light by 1 stop of light. This time, however, I'm not going to deliberately adjust the power. What it says is what I'm going to use. I'd like the wall to become slightly more grey, particularly as the light gets further away from Jade, rather than just that wash to white that we had before. Okay, let's just take a test photo, see how this looks. I'm going to come over this side, Jade's going to look towards the light, perfect, here we go. And I get a great little light coming in. So there is direction to this light, which means that we have a shadow. But when you look at that shadow, it's defined, but it's still soft, and the wall behind Jade is bouncing a little bit of light in and lifting that shadow even further. And that's really all there is to this lighting setup. It's really simple, but gives great results. So Jade, if you're ready, let's take a few photos like this. Here we go. Of course, to maintain the look of the shadow, if Jade moves, I'm going to need to move the light a corresponding amount. And for the final look, you might think I've done absolutely nothing to this because it is exactly the same as it was before. But I have changed one thing. I've added a grid to the setup here. And the grid is going to help me add some vignetting, effectively, a light and dark area at the edges of the frame. And that's going to help me when I come to the final stage, because we're going to add some texture to these photos in post-processing. We'll get to that in a minute, because first of all, we need to take the photos. And you can't just add a grid and take pictures, unless you're using TTL. That might work, of course. If you're going to use manual metering, you've got to actually check your flash meter readings. So let's just pop this near your chin, Jade. Here we go. These things normally take away about a stop of light, which is exactly what it has indeed done. So I'm good to go. Let's take a test photo and see how this looks. Okay, Jade, here we go. Once again, it's important that Jade looks towards the light, so we actually get some light in her eyes. We still have the shadow behind Jade, but now we have a shadow at the top and bottom, where the light is being contained by the grid. The plan is to add some texture seamlessly to the whole photo. I'll get to that in a bit, but that's going to show best in the mid-tones of the image. One thing I have really playing to my advantage is this wall right here, because it's acting like a huge reflector, bouncing light from the wall back into the shadows and filling them slightly, because although I want shadows for the final effect to work, I don't want them to be too deep. And another thing to remember is this is now a directional light source. So if Jade moves, I will have to move the position of that light. But for now, I think we should take a few photos like this. Jade, are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here we go. I do find it's really helpful to know in advance if you're going to do something creative to your images in post-processing. But to give you an idea of what I'm seeing right now, here's the view through my viewfinder. Before I apply the texture to this image, have a look at the histogram. You'll notice there are no real shadows and not really much in the highlights, just lots of midtones, which is good because that's exactly where the texture will appear. You can use any texture you like. I'm going to use this one, which you can download for free from my website. It dates all the way back to 2014. I'll put a link in the video description, along with links to all of the equipment I've used in this video. So in Photoshop, I'm going to go to Select and All, Edit and Copy, back to the main image, edit and paste to apply the texture. Now it's obviously a little bit small, so let's make it bigger by going to Edit and Free Transform. Drag out a corner handle till it covers the image, then click on the tick to commit to the change. To blend these two layers together, I'll go to the Layers panel, change the blending mode from normal to, well, pretty much anything, but soft light tends to work quite well. In fact, that's a bit strong, so I think I'll take it down to about 80-ish%, something like that. The texture will go absolutely everywhere, all over Jade's skin, for example, so I need a bit more control with this. I'll go back to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All, grab myself the paintbrush tool, make sure the foreground color is black, if not, just click the little bendy arrows, and then paint black over anywhere where I do not want to see the texture. So that's mostly Jade's skin, some on her trousers here. There's no magic to this. In fact, being a little bit rough and ready really adds to the whole feel of it. And if it helps, just flick the layer opacity on and off so you can see what the texture is doing and then make a judgment call on whether you need to remove it or not. Last thing, and purely optional, I think I'm going to go back to layers, this time choose new adjustment layer and add in a color lookup adjustment layer. Now this is going to add some color and tone. I'm going to use the candlelight effect, which is a warm tone, but way too much. So I'll take the opacity for that effect down to anything between 15 and 20% should be absolutely fine. And there you go. There is my textured wall white studio background completed. As well as the white walls, there was one other thing that connected all three setups together, and that was we only used a single flash, the Flashpoint XPLOR300. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions, don't forget to leave me a comment down below. Click on the bell icon and you'll never miss a video right here on Adorama TV. And of course, click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.